President Cyril Ramaphosa has passed into law the Civil Union Amendment Bill. The law will prevent marriage officers from refusing to conduct same-sex marriages. Previously, it has been reported that some same-sex couples have been discriminated against by individual marriage officers. The bill has been described as a victory by the LGBTQI+ community. To discuss this, I'm joined via Skype by Amy-Leigh Payne from the Legal Resources Centre. Amy-Leigh, thank you so much for joining us. A victory for the LGBTQI+ community, but really just a victory for constitutionality in South Africa. Why is this such a big deal?
Thank you for having me, Marcelle. Yes, it's really quite a victory for the LGBTQI+ community. It really ensures that government institutions can no longer discriminate against the LGBTQI+ community. By passing the laws, President Cyril Ramaphosa has enacted this and made sure that they no longer face discrimination when concluding marriages.
And just to put it into context, I was drawn by an analysis that was done a few months ago by constitutional law expert Pierre, in which he said to understand its full impact, imagine a similar provision allowing civil servants not to solemnize interracial marriages or marriages of people of faith different to that of the civil servant. And when you put it that simply, it really is a no-brainer that this has now finally been put into law.
Yes, definitely. So just to put into context, a marriage officer cannot discriminate against someone from an interracial couple or even someone with a different faith than them. And in terms of the Civil Marriages Act, to just draw a comparison, there was no clause that allows them to object to this, but only within the Civil Unions Act, the clause was there, which was Section 6, that allowed them to object to solemnizing a marriage. So there was that clear discrimination within the marriages regime.
Now, obviously, there's been a lot of reaction to this. Quite a few have caught my eye. Many saying, look, you've got a job, you work for the state, no less. You're not even working in a private corporate setup, and this is part and parcel of your job. And if you don't like this part of your job, you need to go and find a work elsewhere. Is that an unfair thing to say? And are we trampling on individual rights of expression and association here?
So no, we would say no, that we're not. Currently, if you look at the limitation clause, it needs to be a reasonable and justifiable limit to someone's right. So, for example, to a same-sex couple's right to equality, there needs to be a reasonable and justifiable objection. We're not saying that a marriage officer cannot believe that it is wrong. We're not saying that they cannot, practice their own religion. But while you are employed as a state employee, you cannot impose that upon couples that come. And just to give some more context, in 2017, the Minister of Home Affairs acknowledged that there was only 421 marriage officers from 1,130 that were actually performing same-sex civil unions.
That is quite a big number when you put it that way. Where does that now leave same-sex couples who have decided they want to go to Home Affairs? And let's face it, in the time of Corona, many more people, I think, are considering that option and not doing bigger weddings or civil union ceremonies as well. If such a small percentage of marriage officers have before been open to doing these ceremonies or doing the paperwork, as it were, where does that leave us in terms of the implementation of this amendment bill now?
So previously, what happened with same-sex couples who would approach a Home Affairs office is they would be turned away and they would not be able to conclude their marriage. Now, with the Amendment Act coming into place, there is a transitional provision which allows for a 24-month transition. So marriage officers who have previously received exemptions not to solemnize same-sex marriages, they will lose their exemption from 2 years from now. But with immediate effect from when the Act came into place, which was on Thursday when President Cyril Ramaphosa signed it into law, the Minister of Home Affairs needs to ensure that there's a marriage officer available to solemnize a civil union at every Department of Home Affairs.
And the practicality of that is in that we need to have the human resources to make that happen. How confident are you that that is actually going to take place?
So we will monitor the implementation. We do have community organizations on the ground. We're not quite sure by when. We're hoping that it will be with immediate effect, but we will be monitoring it to make sure that this does happen.
Now, this transition period of 24 months, that those with an exemption, those marriage officers who have an official exemption, and it's important to stress that if you are a same-sex couple and somebody says, oh, I don't want to marry you because it's against my beliefs, you do have the right to ask for their official exemption. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So they need to have been exempted by the minister.
Okay, and now you've got this 24-month transition period, as it were. I believe that some kind of training will then take place. Do we have any idea of what that kind of training would entail? Because from what one understands is you'll have a marriage officer who up until now has been exempt from performing same-sex marriages, and during this period now they'll be trained to get to a point where they'll feel more comfortable conducting these unions?
So it would be sensitization training, but concluding a civil union is not much different to concluding a civil marriage. So the process, the practical process that it would take would not be that difficult, but we do foresee that there would be some sort of sensitization training for marriage officers.
It does make, in as much as we're speaking about law and sort of the parameters thereof, you don't want there to be any grey space. It needs to be quite black and white from a constitutional point of view. But you can't go away from the fact that this is also a very emotional thing. You've got a same-sex couple that wants to get married. It's a very special day for them, even if they're just doing it at Home Affairs. And then you're faced with somebody who says that they have the right not to conduct it. It does place the law in a very difficult but important position to protect the rights of people, but as well as their feelings, I suppose, as well.
Yes, definitely, Marcelle. So something that we've seen over the years is that many same-sex couples who have approached Home Affairs have been turned away. And when you look at perhaps in a rural setting, where there is not Home Affairs officers as easy access as there may be in a metro, so within Cape Town we have quite many, but within rural settings you'd have to then travel 4 kilometers to find one, and once you do, you could then get turned away because the marriage officer says that they don't solemnize. And we're not sure how many have actually been exempted or whether it was just on a personal level. Sometimes couples do not know that they can actually inquire with it, or they just feel so discriminated against that they'd rather turn away and walk away than be embarrassed or, shunned further.
What a horrible situation to be in. Do you have any advice then for those who are wanting to take that step but need to know that they have to be quite informed and educated before they take that step so they know what their rights are once they get to that office?
So there are quite a number of LGBTQI organizations that do assist couples or would speak through the process, but alternatively they can contact legal organizations. They can contact me via email if needs be. So there are options for them, just to find out what your rights are, and if you are turned away, then also to contact someone and find out what your rights are and if you are able to do anything further.
So if you don't know, find somebody who does. Thank you so much. That's Amy-Leigh Payne from the Legal Resources Centre speaking to us following President Cyril Ramaphosa passing into law the Civil Union Amendment Bill. The law will prevent marriage officers from refusing to conduct same-sex marriage. A really good step in the right direction.